What's up YouTube? Capital G here, giving you guys a quick deck profile of the Buster Blader Pendulum deck that I showed in a duel yesterday, and a lot of people seem very interested in it, so I said what the heck, I'll go ahead, show the deck, try to explain it the best that I can. So I like the Pendulum version of Buster Blader as kind of like an alternative because I feel that the deck, for the most part, you get kind of the same plays. You're able to go into the same powerful cards like the Buster Blader Fusion, Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, but at the same time, you have the Pendulum mechanic to fall back on. It gives you a higher ceiling, and it just is kind of a failsafe. Like if you don't have Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, you can potentially get blown out by things like Interrupted Slumber, or you can get blown out by Regeki. Now obviously the new Buster Blader trap card does kind of help with that, protecting your destruction swords, but you won't always have that in the graveyard. And I feel like if you do get blown out by one of those cards, being able to fall back on the Pendulum summon turn after turn after turn is just something that's pretty much invaluable. Now one of the reasons why I do think that Buster Blader works with Pendulum so well, as I said in the other video, is because Buster Blader just naturally synergizes perfectly with, you know, sevens, because obviously he is a 7, and the rank 7 pool is extremely good. Not just the cards that we already have, things like Big Eye and Red Eyes Metal Flare Dragon. Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon is a behemoth too. Being able to get an Odd Eyes from your graveyard is really good. But then you have also things like Odd Eyes Rampaging Dragon, which are going to be coming out in Raging Tempest and just a couple of months. And if you look at Pendulum Magicians, like they have so many good level 7s already. The fact that Odd Eyes, Pendulum Dragon, and Magicians pretty much go hand in hand, because Odd Eyes is a beat stick that also can search things like Wisdom Eye. That also just really works well. But you also have Dragon Pit, which can take dead cards and you can just discard them, start popping back row, make your plays a lot safer. I mean, you've got Zang Magician, which is a good number 7. You've got Dragon Calling Magician, that's another great level 7. And then when you combine that with the new Supreme cards, the cards that are basically made for Zork, you just have so many good level 7s that dropping rank 7s is incredibly easy. And it's really cool because a lot of times you'll basically need to, like, you'll have Buster Dragon on the field and you'll have Buster Blader as well, and you haven't used Buster Dragon's effect yet. So what you'll want to do is exceed with Buster Blader and go for one of your rank 7s, maybe like a Big Eye, take your opponent's monster, and then use your Buster Dragon to revive your Buster Blader, because he can only summon a Buster Blader if you don't have a Buster Blader already face up on the field. Now let's talk about these cards, the Supreme King cards, and why they're ran in this version of Buster Blader. And it's actually really important. For starters, they do have their own Stratos. It's a level 4 dragon, which obviously means you can use it as fusion material to, go into the Buster Blader fusion monster, which is really good. But it's not just that. This card works when special summon, so you never really have to use your normal summon, and it's just a really good card. It kind of has a built-in failsafe in case it gets like maybe you're going to Pendulum summon it and your opponent uses like Solemn Strike or Solemn Warning. Well, if you don't have any monsters on the field, you can actually revive this guy from the graveyard for free, and you can do it like every single turn, which is actually pretty damn dope to me, and especially considering it has 1800 attack. So for a level 4 monster, it is like, it has hella use, and it is a Pendulum scale of 5, which is pretty much well, I was actually gonna make a big mistake. I was gonna say the same as Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, but he's a 4. Look, the point is you can use it for pendulum plays, and it obviously gives you access to these guys. Scale 13, scale 0. Scale 0 is a little more important in this deck. You run 3 of each because obviously they both are searchable, and they allow you to go for your big pendulum plays. But the reason that scale 0 is really important in this deck is because it allows you to finally just special summon all your little buster guys. I mean, these dudes are level 1, so in traditional pendulum decks you could never pendulum summon them because we didn't have scale 0s before. There just was no way to pendulum summon these guys. So now you don't necessarily have to use your normal summon. I do know that, well, he does search. Obviously he searches the fusion card, but I mean, there will be some times, guys, where you'll have to normal summon something maybe more important like Joker, and you'll already have a fusion in your hand. Like maybe you'll have a transcendental fusion, and getting to your destruction fusion, it might not be as important, you know what I mean? So just penduluming, having the ability to pendulum summon these is pretty damn important. Like I think that it's something that is kind of invaluable. And then you add, some other just like really good cards, things like Sky Iris, which work well in this deck. Archfiend Eccentric is just kind of like a generic MST that also works as like an exile force and whatnot. And I don't know. I feel like the deck is pretty solid. I feel like, again, it's just a safer version of Buster Blader. You know, traps feel like they kind of work in Buster Blader, but I feel like traps really only can only be maximized in Buster Blader when you already have the fusion on board. Like if you have the fusion and destruction swordsman, at that point your opponent is really not going to be doing anything, because they're probably going to be setting all their monsters, because all of their monsters are going to be dragon. They're not going to be able to use any monster effects, and this guy's attack is generally going to be through the fucking roof, and he does piercing damage. He can attack directly, but that's another thing about the pendulum summon, is when you can just, you know, summon like Odd Eyes, or you can summon, you know, Zang Magician, you can just beat your opponent down even if they are for some reason keeping an open field. Oh, one last thing that I forgot to mention. These guys can both actually summon. They both have built-in monster effects that are actually pretty nifty. Their pendulum effects are really not that important, because you're not going to be summoning Zork or anything like that. But their monster effects actually can be useful, because they do special summon synchro dragon monsters out of the extra deck. And while, yes, you have some serious limitations on them, you actually can get a fusion as well, but I wouldn't recommend that, because you don't want to use your Vortex Dragon, because there's a very good chance you're going to go into Absolute Dragon, and if Absolute Dragon dies, you're going to want to have your Vortex Dragon available. But the reason that their effect can actually be kind of useful is you can actually summon Ignistor, or you can summon Buster Dragon with their effects. Basically, you blow up another monster or another card on your side of the field, and then out comes that dragon. Again, that monster has its effects negated, and its attack and defense are 0, and it can't be used for Exceed or Synchro material. So Konami put a fucking ton of restrictions on what you can do with it, but obviously this is a fusion deck, and you can fuse with the monster, which is important, because you bring out a dragon. If you already have Buster Blader, then obviously you can just use your, your Buster Blader fusion card, or you can use Transcendental Fusion, and there you have ways of making use. And then ideally, you know, during your next turn, you would just like pendulum summon these guys back, or maybe Exceed with them, or, you know, during the following turn, yada yada yada. The point is, it's a really obscure effect that doesn't work all that well, I would imagine, in other decks, but it actually gets some value in this deck. So let me know what you guys think. If I messed up on anything, feel free to correct me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already.